Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And Rick, we've had a lot that we've had our work cut out for us, as there's been so much that's happened on this Grey Cup weekend. And so we're here to talk about the CFL State of the League address. This was done by Stuart Johnston. Now, usually this is an open event. However, this year it was a closed event. And certain fans were able to get in with a meet the commissioner sort of thing. You could apply to get in for that. And I'm sad to say that your best friend, which is me, hopefully, was not invited.
Denied.
Damn, I was denied. You were not selected in the random draw this year. And I responded in all caps, fuck. I'm kidding. I didn't. But anyways, so there was a lot brought up. In all, I think this was an awesome press conference by the commissioner. I know some people won't like me saying that, but I think that's the truth. That is my opinion, at least. So I want to discuss a lot of the things that we got here. So firstly, as this needs to be stated, he said that he made a mistake. That a few months ago, he announced the rule changes and he was not clear enough about something. That the CFL is a 3-down game. 12 players, 65 yard wide, with the waggle, the move, the pre-snap motion, all that sort of stuff. And that he was not clear enough about that, and he wanted to set the record straight. So, not going to lie, the only thing he could have done here that could have been more clear is if somebody asked a question about it, and he said, "Over my dead body." I think I am glad he did this, not because I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of the, 4 downs is next. 4 downs is next. They've opened the door. Stuart Johnston has slammed that short door completely shut with this presser. I'm not going to lie. I never believed the door was open, as I saw a lot of people did. I just didn't buy it, as I was like, guys, he's just using business terms. It's not actually happening. Just in business terms, well, we got to leave everything on the table. There's no guarantees in life. That sort of thing. But today he went in a bit of a less business approach and said it's not happening, just to get the portion of the fandom that was saying that to respectfully shut the fuck up. I think that was kind of the goal of that. So there's that. Now, there's a lot of things that we had gotten into. There was a lot that was gotten into that we had that we're here to cover. And firstly is one that's actually already happened. Me and Rick have talked about it in our videos, our previews, our reviews. And it's something that I'm very happy about. You know what it is, Rick?
The website and app?
That the website is getting updated. Did you why am I excited?
Hold on.
Yep.
I would have taken the app or the website because I know how much you hate the score no app updating their shit properly. So I would have thought you would have taken the app or the website.
Well, I think both are necessary, but the website in particular. You are a professional fucking sports league. And he said 3 days on his third day on the job, the website went down for a professional sports league. That's embarrassing. When we started this season, I can't remember exactly what it was. I put a tweet out. So if you look at my tweet history and over on Canadian Football Central, I'm sure you'll find it there. What did they list Samuel Emilis's age at? Like 128 or some bullshit where they accidentally hit the 1 on the keyboard where they were putting it in. Whoops. A little bit embarrassing if you ask me.
Not only that, also draft night it went down.
Yeah. That's unacceptable. If you want, if the CFL wants to be taken seriously, actually, hold on a second. I found it. There it is, and I have the photo. That I took. I have receipts. That's right. Samuel Emilis on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You notice something is highlighted. Let's take a little zoom in there. If we look at his age, we'll notice a weird anomaly. Is that he's listed at 125 years old. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm not a betting man. I don't make a lot of bets in life. I would be willing to bet. I would be willing to bet a lot of money that at the time I posted that tweet, Samuel Emelis was not 125 years old, and so it looked bad. It looked kind of pathetic, if you want me to be honest. A professional website that actually has advertisements that's promoting their stuff is important, because anyone who's going to take the slightest bit of interest in the league will probably check out the website at least once. If it looks like it's being abandoned, like a fucking Halloween haunted house that someone forgot to take down, that looks like a problem. Really, really, really glad that this is something that they're focusing on. That is important, because that's just a reputation thing. That's bad. But you mentioned another part of this, Rick. The CFL app. We are in the year 2025. You are a professional sports league.
App.
You don't have an app. You used to have an app. Then you took it down. I don't know why. I think it was because you're lazy. Some would say that it was because you didn't have the money for it. But that's bullshit, because you're putting it back up. So obviously there was money for it. You were just too lazy to keep it up. Like, how could you not have an app? Like, that's the thing that seems crazy to me, is like, you want to promote this game to the younger audiences. And I say this from a generation of people who are addicted to their goddamn phones, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Gen Alpha, they're on the way. Trust me, that that is a second life for them on the phone. So you have to adapt. Having an app is part of how this whole ordeal works. This needed to happen. I'm glad it's happening. Coming next year. Shall we get to the next part?
So the one point that I would like to see that they mentioned, that I haven't seen numbers for, is the revenue, and TV media apparently is up. I would like to know the numbers.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The first good 10 to 15 minutes is a lot of patting themselves on the back. You know what it is? It's very much like, it's funny. They call it State of the League. It's very much like the President, Prime Minister, State of the Union. Our economic growth is up. Jobs are up. Nobody is unemployed. You know, it's this self-righteous patting themselves on the back. So I'm not saying that those numbers are inaccurate. I'm just saying is that it's kind of all smoke and mirrors. Like, it's in one ear out the other. Like, I mean. And so it's a good thing. It's good, but it's not really getting into the nitty gritty of things.
Here's my thing, is like, is he trying to talk out of his ass because the TV deal's up next year, so he's trying to get more money for the league from TSN, because
I think he absolutely. I mean, he, with his connections he had when he was at TSN, I like, this is a guy who understands how this landscape works. So I think he knows realistically what he can do to increase the CFL's bargaining leverage, and if he's capable of doing it, he's gonna do it.
But also at the same time, whoever the new president is, know what the ratings are and what they're worth too. Yeah, so it's just like, true. Okay, so I know, like, I'll be glad once the numbers finally come out after the season, who actually made money, because I know Bombers did, I know SAS did. But I'm curious to see.
I think the Lions probably did, because now they're not paying two quarterbacks both over $500,000. I think now that they'll probably turn a profit because of that, if I were to make my guess. And I'd guess that the Ticats would do decent.
So the other thing that I want to see is, okay, he also mentioned that the attendance was up. I get that for some teams it was. I'd like to see, like, the actual numbers.
I know league-wide, as an average, it was. Some teams went up, some teams went down, though.
Also, the whole CFL players will be playing in the Olympics in 2028.
Yeah, we haven't done a video on that, but I think eventually we may want to do a video on it. The only reason we're not doing it right now is because we got so much actual CFL content going on. I think at some point, maybe in the off-season, we'll take an actual kind of look into that.
I don't know if you've seen it. They also have Grey Cup access, where it's like a kind of like following them around and stuff. So
And
they have
where's that being
three
uploaded?
teams. It's on the actually, you know what? Let me grab the link because it's on CFL.ca right now.
Okay, it's on the website. But you don't know if
Uh,
it's going on
it's
like YouTube or TikTok
oh,
or
I'm sure it
Instagram.
is.
Okay. Because
Really, it's only
one of the things
no. It
that they
has to be
said
even
is
longer than that.
they are looking to the CFL is looking to improve its social media presence on Instagram. They made a lot of pushes on TikTok, which is good. TikTok, I mean, even just us here at Canadian Football Central, we've started making pushes on TikTok. We didn't used to have a TikTok account till very recently. Our first TikTok
So
we uploaded was from the East semifinal this year, and we've been growing our TikTok. So go follow us over on TikTok. But it's a good way to capture younger viewers. So it's the right choice for the CFL.
it is. Oh, I put it on the wrong spot. Wrong spot. I will delete it. So it is on YouTube, but it's only like 8 minutes long. Like I don't know what garbage that is.
And where is this?
Um,
Sorry,
I'm gonna be putting it in our
put it
Discord.
into CFL news articles.
I was gonna put it in content, but yeah, I can do the news and articles.
No, no, just put it in news articles because even though
News and
it's like
articles.
a video, it's news. You know what I mean? As opposed to
Um,
content creation is like if it's like you're creating content. You know what I mean?
the one that I'm looking forward to before I let you go back and talk about some points.
Yep.
Schedule's coming out December 9th, so
Yep. I
that will
was just about
be,
to mention that.
and then fantasy long
Um,
season long fantasy leagues.
and now, so there are fantasy leagues currently for the CFL. The CFL does not have one in house though. This is like Yahoo Sports does fantasy. Like and there are other things that do fantasy that are CFL
So
applicable, but the CFL themselves do not sanction them. They are not run by the CFL. CFL, as part of their, I think it's going to be a portion of their website and their app, will have in house, unless it's a separate app. It might be a separate app, but I think it would make sense to do it on the same app. Is going to have an in house CFL fantasy. Fantasy football is arguably the biggest fantasy sports community. So it makes sense to have the CFL as part of that.
the other thing that I was going to bring up for that was the fantasy for CFL. They have it right now, but it's only like week long, and you can draft players from any team.
And again, but this isn't run by the CFL. This is run by external
No, no, but
things.
where I was getting at is there's a difference between everyone having a shot at picking the same roster each week to just having one person having that player all season long.
Yeah. There's going
Um,
to be like trades, all sorts of stuff that they're going to put
the
into it.
one
Sounds
the
pretty cool.
one thing that I the one thing that I forgot to mention that I wanted to bring up that I forgot to mention during our whole going over the notes is the gambling. I don't
Mm.
know if you've seen it. There was 5 instances.
Yeah, there were 5 instances, not that were like major issues, but essentially that were flagged where the CFL was like, hold on a second, we got to look into this gambling thing because there's some suspicious activity. The CFL did an internal investigation and it came to the conclusion that none of them were actual legitimate enough to proceed on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But there were 5 instances. So the CFL, in regards to gambling and the potential for players to gamble, and there is a higher potential for it because of the fact that in the NFL, it's one of those things that they make so much money that you would think never in their million years they'd ever need to gamble. Whereas in the CFL, not that you would ever need to gamble, that no one ever needs to gamble. The likelihood of it might be a little higher because of the fact that the wages are more are closer to the average person. I'm not saying it's the average person. It certainly is not, but it is a lot closer than your guys making millions upon millions of dollars every year. So, but it's something that the CFL, based on their experiences that they've had this season and in some prior seasons, they believe that they have this handled well currently, and so they're going to kind of stay the course. And if there's ever an issue, then at that point, address it.
So
Um,
they did say that They have a mandatory education course.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
That's pretty standard. That makes sense.
but players can't bet. Coaches, presidents, owners, and staff.
Yep.
But they go through the match manipulation policy, as he likes to call it.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next point.
Um, the one I was curious about, Rick, can you
Yes.
chat about the future of the replay center?
Yeah, so I forget what media person brought it up, but someone brought it up of how um there was problems with the replay center, not just the replay center, but like how refs would miss something or the refs would say something and then all of a sudden the replay center's like, oh well, we're gonna automatically look at this, but not say anything to the refs, and then you got to stop the play for however long, and then
So just not clear communication.
yeah. And Stuart Johnson said that there was one game, he didn't mention which one it was, but he sat in the back room, like the back of the replay center, just to see what all goes on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure, yeah. So you and Coach Phil watched the
East semifinal
Montreal
or the East
Hamilton.
final. Sorry. Yeah.
Take that game for example. Look at those times that the officials gathered.
Now, one thing I will say, to be fair, is there's a few things. Number one, I don't think it's as noticeable on the broadcast because whenever this happens, there's
There's a TV
replays,
camera.
analysts are talking about stuff. Like there's other stuff to fill that void. Whereas if you're in the stadium, you're just sitting there waiting. The other thing is, and this is what I will say about that live stream specifically, me and Coach Phil were talking a lot during the course of it. We none of us even noticed that there were these big long delays because we were just in conversation talking.
Oh, like me and my section, we're just yelling. Like you could hear us. I don't know
Yeah.
on TV, but sections were looking at us. There was at least a good, I want to say, probably 5, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you guys can't decide, like if he was tackled, not tackled, where the ball is. Like, so that was that. The other thing that I will mention before I give you the floor back was someone had mentioned about other sports and player salaries if they're going to be made public like other sports do.
Yes.
And he said that that was going to be one of the things that they were going to bring up at the January winter meetings.
I so firstly, I want to say a few things regarding that. Firstly,
Sure.
I think the CFL Players Association will probably push back against that. Generally, players are not a fan of their salaries being made public. Now, I'm not saying this applies to all players. I'm saying from looking at other leagues, I've heard of players kind of being like, I don't like that people know exactly how much money I make in my life, the
So,
way that I don't know how much money you make in your life. And so, but it's one of those things where it's a very big now, and this is a little bit interesting, Rick, because we're like, I mean, we're CFL content creators.
mhm.
Stuff like reviewing, like, how close are teams to the cap, if they're trying to make a trade and stay under the cap. Now, obviously, the CFL operates on the luxury tax salary cap system as opposed to a hard cap, which is what the National
Mhm.
Hockey League has. Um, the because the CFL salary tax is very comparable to like leagues like the MLB and the NBA. And so although the MLB one is ridiculously high, um, to the point where it's borderline not existent unless your name is the LA Dodgers. But the when it comes to that, it allows interesting analysis to be made. And the big thing about this analysis, about these videos, about that content creation, is it's traffic. The CFL needs 20 to 30 million dollars. 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 The CFL needs 20 traffic. It needs people talking about it. It needs to be discussed. The CFL benefits when people are talking about the CFL. When this type of stuff is made public, there's
Mm-hmm.
more discussions to have. And so I understand why there are maybe some that won't want this. I think it would be a net positive for the league, and I hope it happens.
So the one thing that I will mention, well, the two things that I'll mention about salary is A, if you get drafted in the CFL draft, you are 2+ option for the Canadian players. If you come up from the US, you
Mm-hmm.
are a 1+ option for the players. Any new rookies, we already know how much they make because it's
That's true. I'm
basically
talking just
league minimum.
general salary, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But vast majority, like if you compare it, okay, I'm gonna take for example two players on the Ticats. So you had Brian Cole II make
Yeah.
90,000, whereas you had Drew Wolodarski make 135, and he didn't even play. So
Yeah.
you could honest like if you're just because you know the Bombers more than I do, you
Yeah.
could sit there and kind of rough guess at what people are making, but you can't say
Some
for sure.
players, yes. There's some players like I'm not gonna lie. If I look at guys like Kolinkowski and Neufeld, I have no clue what they're making.
I
Like,
want to say if you're an offensive lineman, you're pushing at least 95 if you're on the weaker side of offensive line. If not, you're pushing at least 100,000 for an offensive lineman.
that would be my guess, but again, I have no clue. And especially if you have like a star O lineman like Stanley Bryant, like Yoshi Hardrick, looking for like I have no clue. So
Yeah.
that's where I think they would benefit from having this information public. Now, the other one I wanted to ask you a bit more about, Rick.
Sure.
I want you to talk a bit about the football ops increasing. So for those that are
Yeah.
wondering, there's a salary cap for the players, but this is a cap for football
For
for essentially
coaches.
it's essentially a budget for, but it's football operations. It's not just coaches, it's coaches, trainers, it's all that
Your equipment
conjunct
staff.
equipment staff, all football operations. It is a budget given for that. And there's talk
So,
of potentially increasing that, and that there
oh,
are
it's
some
not potentially. He said it is being
it is
increased.
increasing because there
What
there
it's
are
being
some
increasing.
there are some complaints about it in its current form.
So, there's two different ways that I look at this. One is okay, and we had this discussion earlier, is do you pay, and I'll use Toronto as an example, do you go down to the States and do you hire, and everyone knows Bill Belichick as a big name coach, so I'm just going to use
Bill
Bill
Belichick,
Belichick
yes.
as an example. Do you go down and do you say, okay, we're going to give you this amount for this money to come up north, even though he would make more money down in the States? Or do you say, okay, we're going to bring in up and coming person? And again, I'm just going to use Jordan Younger as an example, up and coming head coach. Do you
Yeah.
bring him up and pay him less, or are you a head coach where you say, okay, you know what? I've noticed that we need a couple more position coaches and stuff like that. Do you take a little bit less so that you can use that increase to bring up, that extra position coach, or maybe you bring, you I'll use Calgary as an example. A couple of weeks ago, there was an article that came out that said that Calgary was one of the most injured teams in the season. Do you maybe use that extra money and bring in more athletic trainers?
Yeah. And that's where with this going up, that will be to teams' discretion on exactly where they want to spend that budget. Um, it might even be an instance where status quo generally stays and everyone gets a small raise. Who knows? Um, Again, just because of what we've heard about some lack of happiness with some people regarding their pay in the football ops side of things. Now that means that we've covered majority of these things, but we still got a few important things to say. The one of the things that was brought up was I want to actually, this was something that I really wanted to talk about. And this is regarding some of the data and the opinions on the rule changes. I don't know who it was. It was brought up by somebody because Stuart Johnson said that the fans generally were in favor of the changes, which I was like, I would
maybe not at
avoid.
first.
I would avoid trying to say, well, the majority of people agree with this or this, because that's just kind of statements thrown out into the ether. There's not really. And so then the question is there any evidence to back this up? Now, there was a study that was done by the Angus Reid Institute, and Peter Diakowski saw this and went, aha, and went on Twitter and, like the keyboard warrior he is, showcased it to the world and to believe that he has found the solution to all this. I strongly disagree with Peter Diakowski on a lot of things, and I disagree with him on this. Because he said that the stats keep stacking up. Again, this is a flimsy case. The respected Angus Reid Institute, that's a quote right there, just released a massive study. But the problem is that I took a look at this study, the study that he cited, and the exact graphs that were put up. I'm actually going to lower the brightness so you can see this here. Sorry. The exact graphs that were put up. I would encourage you to check out the tweet and check out the study that was done. As Stuart Johnston, as this study was essentially the one that was brought up in the presser, or at least alluded to, as they said, like, well, and Stuart Johnson said, well, that study is not really a valid study because there are leading questions that are asked. So that would then say, well, like, let's just so that way it's very, very clear. Some would ask, what is a leading question? Okay, just so we're clear on that. A leading question is a question that prompts or encourages a desired answer. That is a Google definition of a leading question. So the question is there a bias in the question in the way it was asked? Because if there is, the answers to those questions are essentially null and void.
I found the answer to that.
The answer to what?
Was if you check your Discord, someone had posted a support, oppose, can't say on the changes.
Yeah.
According to this institute, I want to say, because it's the same.
Okay, well that's good because that's good. At least that in one instance they had showed that they'd showed asking specific questions. Because that was my point I was going to get to, that they needed to focus on. Because the problem is that they also asked a bunch of nonsense. I'm not going to lie. And these are the ones that the guy in the interview was citing. He wasn't really citing as much because Johnson was pointing out the ones that you were mentioning here, which was the questions that were rightfully asked by the Institute. Do you support or oppose each of these changes? Either support, oppose, or unsure. Adopt a 35-second play clock. 46% said yes. 13% said no. 41% not sure or indifference. Eliminate single points for missed field goals going through the end zone. 31% said yes. 21% said no. 41% said indifference. Mm-hmm. Move the goalpost to the back of the end zone. 35% said yes. 27% said no. 38% said indifference. Shorten the field from 20 yards to 15 yards. Shorten the end zone, sorry. 30% said yes. 33% said no. 37% said indifference. Shorten the field from 110 yards to 100 yards. 28% said yes. 39% said no, 33% abstained as well. Now, the key point here is that the people that aren't voting, they're saying they're not sure. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That usually that leans more towards yes. And what I'm saying here is that usually when people say I'm not sure about something, it's I'm open to it. I'm not 100% convinced, so I'm not going to throw my weight behind it, but I'm not dismissing it out of nature. So usually people who abstain tend to be more open-minded, and so that tends to favor better towards the yes side of the spectrum than the no side of the spectrum. Now, the questions that were asked that were very leading, that were, in my opinion, dishonest questions to ask in regards to the context were, when it comes to the future of the CFL, which of these two statements is closest to your view? Which was, the NFL should try and differentiate itself from the CFL should try to differentiate itself from the NFL as much as possible. The CFL should try and align itself with the NFL rules. That is a leading question because you are in the question insinuating that these rule changes are strictly aligning with the NFL as opposed to these being changes that are made to evolve the Canadian game. And maybe there are some things that are similar-ish to the NFL or the NCAA or another football league. It doesn't even need to be necessarily the NFL. But you're insinuating that that's the rationale behind the changes when it's repeatedly been said that it isn't. And even in this press conference, as we're going to talk about a little bit after, it's specified that when it comes to expansion, it's not looking down south, it's staying up here in Canada. And the focus with everything right now in the CFL is the Canadian markets. So the evidence just doesn't add up that that's the narrative, which means the question in itself is a dishonest question. So yeah, majority of people on this said that the CFL should try to differentiate itself for as much as the NFL as possible. And that's fine. But that doesn't say anything negative on the league. Because again, if you thought it did say anything negative on the league, then you're essentially insinuating that, like, again, the problem is that the question is leading. And so the other one was thinking about the Canadian Football League over time, would you say the CFL is basically the same as it was, is more exciting, or is more boring? The vast majority of people across most demographics said that it's basically the same. So what? He just became commissioner for like less than a year. It's not like he's had a lot of time to actually make any real impact. Now, I know I say this with people being like, well, he's changed the rule. Yeah, but those haven't come into effect yet. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't seen the actual payoff to that. So, again, this is where I would encourage people when they see stats thrown out into the ether to do a little bit of digging first. And again, Rick, I appreciate you sending me those more direct, because I was about to say a not leading question, a fair question to ask is, do you think a 35-second play clock automatic is better than the current 20-second whistled-in clock? Yes, no, I don't know. And then that is a clear, direct answer to a specific thing. And it's not leading at all and allows people to vote. And so generally it looks like there is more support than not support, than kind of violent opposition. And there's a lot of open-mindedness. I know it doesn't seem like that on social media. Again, social media is very much it is a megaphone for the loudest voices. It always has been. It always will be. You know, and so I'm not surprised, but I think there's a lot that will. I think there's a lot of good that can come from the rule changes, as much as there are things that I am skeptical about. So I just wanted to mention that, as that was something that was brought up in the state of the league. Um, Another thing that was brought up is the question regarding the youth sports and high school dependence on the CFL rules. Essentially saying, someone asked, are youth sports now going to all have to swap over? Is high school all going to have to swap over? To which Stuart Johnson said no. He actually said that the CFL will be responsible if there are any field changes for specifically for teams that share youth sports and CFL teams in the same venue. CFL will be held responsible for making those changes, which is a little bit concerning. Not gonna lie, that sounds expensive. If we're talking about teams like the Manitoba Bisons that play in the same building as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, to be honest, I think the best decision here for youth sports would be um, for it to essentially be optional for teams to use the current CFL format, like the current Canadian football dimensions, 110 yards, 20-yard end zones, with the post at the front or with it at the back. I think it being optional is fine. As I think, to be honest, it doesn't really change the way that the players will play the game. Still the wide field, still the 12 guys on the field. The fact that the field's 10 yards longer, it's not going to make any difference, really, in regards to the way that they are going to play the game. The only difference it makes is to coaches, to play callers, to offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. Um, and so in general, I think that that youth sports would be just fine with field sizes that are potentially different. I wouldn't be surprised if they said, you know what, over the course of 10 years, we want our league to fully align with the CFL's new updated field dimensions and swap everything over the course of however many years. And so he said that youth sports is just very much independent in that regard. Although I do hope that there does become further integration. That's just a personal opinion of mine. Um, and lastly, discussing the nature of a 10th team. I was asked if the changes that were made were to give the a larger opportunity for them to expand south of the border, and he said, to be honest, that wasn't really the thought process behind it. He didn't rule out like that it would ever happen or not, because again, of course, he wouldn't. Like, even if he didn't have a thought in the world about it, even if he's just, it's never something that he'd fully rule out. The only reason he ruled out the stuff with the rule changes is literally, like, the only reason he gave out the guarantees there is literally just to get people to shut up. Um, but regarding the 10th team, he made it very clear that expansion within Canada is something that is wanted, but is not in the highest priority, in the sense of he wants the league to be in a stable position so that investors can come to him rather than the CFL trying to force its way into a new market. He wants a new market to be like, we crave this. We want a CFL team. We want, like, they want the kind of, they want the market to take the initiative. And because that's a great way to have investors. And so by getting the league more stable, getting the league more financially successful, getting it more profitable, um, he believes that naturally that'll open it up to investment. And I'm not going to lie, I think he's absolutely right there. And so I think he talked about the idea of a team in Atlantic, Canada. He talked about a team in Quebec City. Both of them were mentioned as potential places in the future. Obviously, at the Grey Cup Festival today, I saw a bunch of Atlantic Schooner stuff as the chef that they had from Atlantic, Canada, representing the 10th CFL 10th team, sort of Atlantic Schooners, actually won the cook-off. So just a fun fact there with his lobster roll. But all in all, I think that this press conference went well. What do you think, Rick?
So the one thing that I will mention about the 10th team expansion team thing is, I think it's more of because he already said that they're already getting phone calls, but it's just kind of like, okay, what are you guys looking for? What do you guys need? Like, kind of like, not really, okay, this is what our plans are, just kind of getting like some feeder calls in there and stuff like that. He didn't say like if he cared if it was on the East Coast or the West Coast, wherever it is. What I think my understanding is like, Yeah, I agree with you where he wants it to be like, okay, you have to like push us for it. But also at the same time, I think at the same time, he wants them to make sure that they have a stadium before they come
Well,
knocking
yeah,
or
and this is part of the he doesn't want the CFL to be pushing for like,
an
oh,
expansion
you
team.
we need to get a building there so that way they can join the league. He wants it to be like, no, 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 no. These investors want to join the league. They're going to set up the stadium and make sure that stadium's ready. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He wants the burden of responsibility to be on investors because in leagues that are expanding, if we look at when the NHL expanded, if we looked at when the NFL, when all sorts of leagues have expanded, the
Yeah.
burden of that responsibility is on the investor, is on the
Mm-hmm.
guy saying, I want, like the CFL would want to collect an expansion fee that they can
Yeah.
disperse to its owners.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that. Like the issue is that if you're begging for a team to come in and you're spending all this time and resources to solve their problem, then like I get you kind of it raises the question of how much does the league need the team or does the city need the league? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
who's dependent on who? And I think the CFL wants to be in a situation where a team wanting to join has to provide the CFL with something rather than the CFL has to gift it and nudge them in the right direction. He wants them to do their own job and not for the CFL to have to do their job. So I
Yeah.
understand it. Makes total sense to me. Is there anything else we got, Rick? We're about 42 minutes in, but I think we've covered a ton.
Nope,
There's a
not
lot
from my
here,
end.
but I think that's pretty much all we have. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We know we've had a lot of content coming out throughout the course of today. Trust me, it's been a lot of recording here for me and Rick. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys join the Discord, link in the description below, as we're building a CFL, NHL, and sports community over there. So make sure you guys join up and keep the conversation going over there. Very appreciate all of you guys who do. So make sure you guys leave a like on the video, share it around, and subscribe if you haven't already. Rick, anything else before I wrap it up?
Yes. Don't forget our, because I'm sure, again, like I said in the last video, Carter's going to be at the CFL Fans Fight Cancer. So those that are going, the money's going to a good cause. So go spend, spend, spend.
Yes, sir.
On the flip side, I will be doing a live stream for the two OUA playoff games. The winners go to the Vanier Cup on the 22nd. So I will be doing that on the channel as well. Thanks to lovely Carter for doing all the behind the scenes stuff
The lovely Carter. Woo!
for those. Well, I'm talking about like thumbnails and all those fun jazz that you love to do at 3 o'clock in the morning
The
when we're on phone
lovely
calls.
Carter.
I don't know
I
what
didn't
you
know
want
I
me to
was
say.
I didn't know I was lovely.
Um, Also, the Grey Cup. You will be at the Grey Cup. I
Yes.
will be live streaming the Grey Cup. I haven't
Yes,
brought on a
sir.
guest. I might do it solo. Who knows? But I will have that on here as well, and we'll have a little pregame. We'll have an after game thought,
Yes,
and
sir. We have our preview, so make sure you guys check it out if you haven't already.
yeah, it's already on Spotify.
Perfect. So I think that's all we got. So peace and love and positivity to all your wonderful folks at home. Make sure you guys take care. We'll see you guys next time.